Hello students, this video is for class 8 chapter 5 combustion and fuel. So basically this chapter belongs to your chemistry and it will be done in the respective notebook. So as the name states combustion and fuel, so let's start this chapter. So moving on further, first of all we need to understand what is the meaning of combustion. So combustion and burning, as we have seen in the previous years, those were two generic terms, but there's a technical difference between the meaning of burning and combustion. So burning is something that it can be said as something like किसी चीज़ को आप जला रहे हैं. But as far as combustion is concerned, तो combustion again is nothing but burning, but condition required here is that it should be done in presence of oxygen. So when burning is occurring specifically in the presence of oxygen, or you can say air, then at that time it is called as a combustion. And since we know that whenever we are going for combustion, right, the large amount of heat and light will be released, so you can say highly it is an exothermic process cause of the liberation of large amount of heat. Now moving on, we need to understand what is the meaning of combustible substances. So substances that can easily catch fire in presence of air are called as combustible substances, and the which are basically used for generating this heat and light are called as fuels also, right? And there are different examples like wood, paper, coal, LPG, and there are different things which can come under the category of combustible. And non-combustible will be the one that do not catch fire in presence of air, right? And example are like your water, glass, stone, and metals. Now what we need to understand, like how, why or when exactly the combustion will occur. So basically there are three conditions which are required for getting anything combusted. So first thing is like we need to have a proper substance. So first of all, we need to have a substance that will be catching fire in presence of air, right? We need to burn something. First of all, we need to have something, right? Then we need a supporter of it, right? For example, we are saying combustion, it is occurring in presence of oxygen, so that is acting as a supporter for it. Now we have third thing is called as whenever we are going for combusting anything, we need to attain a particular ignition temperature. So before that, we need to understand what is the meaning of ignition temperature. So what happens is, like, if you take a piece of paper and a piece of wood with you, right, and you use a matchstick and you are trying to burn them, or you can say combust them, so what will happen? You will say that easily the paper will catch fire, but as far as the wood is concerned, it won't. So ignition temperature is a minimum temperature at which any substance will start burning, right? And substances which have very low ignition temperature are called as inflammable substances. So these are the three conditions which are required for anything to get combusted. Now there are different activities. First activity that we have is like if we have a simple paper funnel and you try to burn it with the help of a matchstick, it will easily catch fire. But if you pour water in that funnel shape structure that you have made of paper specifically, and you pour some water, or you are making it wet along with by some ways and all, and you use the same matchstick for burning it, it won't catch a fire. The reason, because the ignition temperature would have increased because the substance was wet. Now the activity second that we have in our book is very common, that you would have seen in the activity classes also, like why we say that air is required for combustion. So if you have a candle, put it in a glass, burn it, and put a tumbler on the top of it, upside down basically. So you will say that after a fraction of time, the wick of the candle will fuse automatically. The reason being, whatever the gas was there, accumulated oxygen was there inside the glass, that was being used up for burning it, and once it get exhausted, so your candle will fuse off. Right, now moving on, we need to understand what are the types of combustion. So there are different categories. Firstly is like depending on the substance, whether it is getting completely exhausted, we have a complete combustion and an incomplete combustion. So complete combustion is something when we have enormous amount of oxygen availability for burning up anything, and when we don't have sufficient amount of oxygen, that time it is called as incomplete combustion, right? And you can say one more difference is like whenever you are having the soot particles, or you say rock, right, blackish particles, we say that incomplete combustion is occurring. And whenever a thing is burning properly without leaving any sort of residue, that time it is a complete combustion. Now the second is depending upon the rate at which the combustion is occurring. There are two types again. The first one is rapid, and the other one is spontaneous. The name itself suggests, right? Rapid will be the one which will be occurring at a very fast level. Once you ignite them, they'll take a bit of time, but ultimately they'll burn off. But spontaneous will be the one which will be at an instant they will burn off, right? For example, we have seen the example of sodium and magnesium. They don't require anything for burning, right? The moment you keep them in air, they will burn off. But if you have seen wood, LPG, petrol, and diesel and all, if you are burning them, you need to provide some external medium, right? You need to reach the sufficient ignition temperature, even though it is low, but you need to provide that ignition temperature to them. Right, now moving on to the next topic that we have is flame. So one basic question arises: what is the difference between the burning of a paper and burning of coal? So if you have seen burning of paper, fumes will be there. जिसे हम लोग कहते हैं हिंदी में लपटें उठती हैं. But if you have seen कोयला, there will not be any sort of flare. लपटें नहीं उठेंगी. So what exactly is that? Basically, if you have to understand the meaning of flame, it is basically a region where the vapors of the particular substance will get mixed up with the air, and they will burn off and they will give out light and other substances out, right? So there are certain things which will burn by giving flame, and certain things which won't which will burn basically without giving up the flame. So for understanding the structure of flame, what exactly occurs, right? We have the structure of flame, so that is given in your book, very classical. So the region, if you can check it out in the diagram that is given over here, the region that you can see is a basically flame. The next to it is called as the outermost zone, or it is also called as a non-luminous zone. So it is called as a zone of complete combustion also, because of the readily amount of oxygen being available for burning the substances, right? And here point to remember is word that the complete combustion occurs. Then second one is we have is called as a middle zone. It is the one that is exactly visible to you. You can say slightly yellowish or golden type of color, and it is zone of incomplete combustion. Because of the less availability of oxygen in that area, the vapors of the substances which we are trying to burn will not be properly combusted, right? And the last one, the innermost zone, the one that you see the wick in the center, is called as a zone of no combustion or dark zone. Basically you can see the tip of the wick exactly in that, so there no combustion is occurring. And as far as the temperature point of view is concerned, the temperature keeps on decreasing once we move from the outermost zone to the middlemost zone and to the central most portion over here. Now there are certain basic definitions that we have seen in the previous classes in geography and social classes basically also. What are fuels? So fuels are the substances which burns for giving and thereby giving us light and heat, are called as fuels. And then we have fossil fuels. They are the one basically which we have obtained by the remains of dead plants and animals which were buried under the layers of earth over million of years ago. Example is your petroleum, natural gas and all. Now next topic, that is the last topic for this video, will be your classification of fuels. So fuels basically depending upon their availability, whether they are available in large amount or less amount, they can be categorized as renewable or non-renewable. They are the one renewable are the one which are available in plenty, which will not get exhausted over a period of time and can be renewed again. And non-renewable are the ones basically which are present in limited quantity. They will be formed, but the duration of their formation will be very, very vast, right? Now, depending on the physical state, whether they are solid, liquid and gaseous, we have again characterized. For example, gaseous fuels are your CNG, hydrogen, liquid are basically your petrol and diesel, and solid are, you can say, your coal and wood. Now, the last category, depending upon the sources, fuels are again classified as your primary or secondary fuels. So primary fuels are the ones which are basically like how they occur in the nature. They can be directly utilized without converting them into any sort of form. And secondary fuels are the ones which are basically you have to do some sort of chemical processing for refining and for extracting. For example, I'll say crude oil, kacha tel, right? By the chemical processing, we are extracting petrol, diesel, Vaseline and all different things from that. Then we have example of producer gas, or you can say your other sort of gases like are there which are part of secondary fuels. Now fuel efficiency, that we have to understand, we have this calorific value which will define the fuel efficiency. So calorific value is something like when we have you can say the amount of heat energy which is being produced when we have when we are burning 1 kg of that particular substance, right? So amount of heat that we are expressing, it is in the form of joules. So SI unit is basically kilojoule per kilogram, right? Is when we are burning burning 1 kg of that specific fuel, how much energy you are getting in kilojoules, right? Now certain characteristics are there for the ideal fuel. Basically it should have a high calorific value, it should not burn rapidly, should not produce any sort of harmful gases, should not cause basically your air pollution, easily available, can be transported, and ignition to temperature should not be very less or should not be very high, right? Now certain effects of burning of fuels are there that we all know. The first and foremost, the critical reason is the global warming, as the temperature of the earth is increasing rapidly, right, cause of the CO2 gas. These are certain sets of gases which are increasing the temperature of earth. Acid rain is something like due to the increasing level of sulfur dioxide and carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. When water falls down, they combine with them, and acid rain occurs, right? Then carbon monoxide, highly poisonous gas, right? The reason being, it has a very strong affinity for hemoglobin, right? Means it will easily get attached to the hemoglobin and will hamper the circulation of blood along with the oxygen in our body. And then we have lead compounds. They are the one which cause critical, or you can say severe, lung diseases, right? Now we have to understand fire extinguisher, right? Basically, so how can we burn or we can stop any fire, or how can we seize the fire, right? There are different ways. First is like, if you can see fire, first of all is like, if fire is occurring at a particular place, so whenever the thing is getting burned, the surrounding things should not be combustible. We have to remove those substances. Then we have to lower down the temperature, basically below the ignition temperature of that substance which are getting burned. We have to bring that temperature down. And the easy one is the one that we can cut off the supply of air, right? So a fire extinguisher is basically a device which you can say discharges a foam or water or other materials, and thereby doing all the three things, right? Not the three things, basically it will cut off the supply of air, or you can say it lowers down the ignition temperature, right? So we have basically two types of extinguishers. First is your carbon dioxide type, where in the carbon dioxide type, what we have is like the carbon dioxide is filled at extremely high pressure, and when the nozzle is released, the CO2 will come out, and CO2 being heavier as compared to oxygen will cover the complete area and will remove in क्या कहते हैं, help in stopping or spreading the fire, right? Then the other one, the famous one, is the soda acid type extinguisher, in which we have basically sulfuric acid and we have sodium bicarbonate. So what happens is, like, the moment you shake it or you try to open the nozzle, there will be a reaction between sulfuric acid and sodium bicarbonate, and carbon dioxide will be produced, which will try to come up again and again, thereby covering the area and preventing the spread of fire. That's it from this chapter, guys. Thank you.